By now, we've all heard the stories. Discipline should not cause any harm to children, and it should never be a death sentence. According to data from the Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey 2011, 7 out of 10 Jamaican children under the age of 15 are subjected to violent punishment at home. Let us all work to change the narrative and choose a different approach to disciplining our nation's children. Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Theodore Henry. Stay tuned as we unfold the pages.
I am Delroy Chuck, Minister of Justice, and with the support of the European Union, we intend to build a first-class justice system. The contribution of the European Union to the Jamaica justice system is enormous. We believe that this partnership with the European Union has been beneficial to Jamaica, and we hope that further assessment will demonstrate that the partnership between the European Union and Jamaica is one that has not only been game-changing, but will continue in the years ahead. The most significant achievement, in my opinion, was the Court of Appeal. Before the Court of Appeal was rebuilt, only 7 judges could have been appointed. Now we can appoint 12 judges, plus the president of the court, and this will ensure that at that level in the Court of Appeal, cases will move expeditiously. It will set the tone for how we engage in backlog reduction.
Tropical storm Elsa is behind us, but we remain reminded that the hurricane season is well underway and a storm could develop at any time. Today we're joined by a representative from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, to assess the island's general preparedness for the rest of the Atlantic hurricane season. Get the Facts is next.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm your host, Enthros Campbell. So happy to be back in your company. Today we'll be talking about the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season, which runs from June 1 to November 30. We have with us Mr. Richard Thompson, who is the Acting Director General at the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM. He's going to tell us about the expectations for the season this year and the country's level of preparedness and how to protect life and property. Mr. Thompson, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Good. Let us start with what are we to expect for this season? We've been hearing that it's going to be an above normal season. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, the season has been projected to be above average. Average normally for a hurricane season is 14, so it is predicted to be 13 to 20 named storms, 6 to 10 to be hurricanes starting at 74 miles per hour. For your storm system, so it's really start at about 39 miles per hour, classifying as a tropical storm. And then it goes through a process to be up to, we hear a lot about Category 5 system, which is at over 157 miles per hour. And so we are expecting as well 3 to 5 major hurricanes. Major hurricanes being Category 3 systems, that is at 111 miles per hour, starting at that level, and so it is really shaping up to be very active season. Mm-hmm. We would have had 5 named systems already. We would have had a close shave with Elsa. For the very first time, we would have had a system forming so early in the Caribbean and tracking close to us. It's really showing that climate change is real, yes. and so we have to pay critical attention now to how the season is shaping up. Yes. We normally have our active part of the season, or the most active part of the season for us in the Caribbean, and especially for us here in Jamaica, being August to September. And so it could be a situation where it will be that active going throughout, or we might just have a lull and a kind of ramping up again in August to September.
Okay.
So it is really shaping up to be very active. Last year would have gone to about 30 systems, where we would have gone outside of the regular names for hurricane, and then we went into the Greek alphabet. It might not be so active this year, but it is shaping up to be a very active season.
My next question will be then, are we ready?
Yes, we are. We would have done a lot of work going into the season. There would have been a meeting of the National Disaster Risk Management Council that is chaired by the Prime Minister, and we would have done extensive work in terms of looking at our shelters, looking at our priority drains across the country, the work that the municipal corporations would have done in terms of their own preparation as well, looking at the localized drains, looking at the shelter process. They're a part of the process with the ODPEM. And so from last year, we would have put into the mix in terms of the assessment for shelters, the Ministry of Health, given COVID, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and the Superintendent of Roads and Works, because our shelters have to be properly prepared and they have to be outside of the COVID standards that we are putting in, or that we would have put in from last year. We also have to ensure that our shelters is equipped to take the age population and persons who have disabilities. So we are actually catering for everyone in our shelters.
So we had a little test with Elsa.
Yes.
Did our systems hold up?
It hold up to some extent. We would have seen a lot of rainfall.
And some flooding.
And some flooding. So it held up to what was expected.
Yes.
What it does for us now, it literally provides us with a kind of a live simulation.
Yes.
So for us now to kind of recheck and have a relook at our systems and then now reshape what we have to do going further into the hurricane season.
Okay. So that's ODPEM. What should Jamaicans be doing now to secure their homes?
For the general public, one of the things that normally happens during hurricanes is that persons tend to lose their roofs. So your roof retrofitting is critical to the process, to the process of individual preparation. So a person should check. A lot of persons probably would have found out during Elsa that they would have been having roof leaks and all these things. So they have to, you sort that out now. You look at your roof. Look at the members, look at whether you have enough hurricane straps. If you don't have those, you put those in. You look at your general yard situation. If you have a lot of stuff on the outside, sometimes we tend to have a lot of old stuff that we would throw down in the yard. You have to start cleaning up those, getting rid of them, what you can get rid of, what you have to store, you put them in storage, because these can act as missiles during a hurricane. And you don't want for it to damage your house, damage your neighbor, and also damage individuals. So you have to make the necessary preparation now to clean up those. A lot of us we tend to have trees in our yard, mango trees, coconut trees. If you have to do some limbing of those, you do that. If the limbs are too close to the house, you do that. If the trees are too large, we speak about replanting of trees and looking at what is happening in terms of climate change. But for your home security and for security of lives, if the trees are too large and they are too close to your house, you probably might need to think of getting rid of those. And then you replant something which is not so close to the house, because you still want to ensure that we're maintaining that kind of environmental and ecosystem dynamics.
Right.
So you replant those. But if it's too close to the house, then you have to look at doing some limbing or removing the tree altogether so you can be protecting your house.
So we need to be looking at our roofs, we need to be looking at the trees that we have around us. And what about our windows?
Yes, so for our windows, those tend to blow out in a storm if they are not properly protected. So for persons who can afford to put in storm shutters, we say put those in. Yes, they are pretty expensive to do, but if you can afford to do it, you have to do it to protect your windows. Yes. For those persons who can't afford that, we normally say to persons, ensure that you're having enough plyboard around. So if we have gone to hurricane watch, then we go to hurricane warning, and you have to now start to doing your battening up. then you can use your plyboard to batten up to protect your windows.
Okay, we're going to take a break now and come back with more useful information on hurricane preparedness. Please stay with us.
Do you own land and need a title? Well, the National Land Agency NLA can help. Through the systematic land registration process, the NLA will assist residents to get titles in declared project areas across Jamaica. Systematic land registration is the methodical and orderly registration of parcels of land in a designated area known as systematic adjudication area. For further information on the systematic land registration process, including declared systematic adjudication areas, who can apply and the benefits, visit the National Land Agency's website at www.nla.gov.jm or email asknla@nla.gov.jm. The National Land Agency, one agency, one goal.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're talking about the Atlantic hurricane season. With us is Mr. Richard Thompson, who is the Acting Director General at the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM. Tell us now about our shelters. We are still in a pandemic, right? You have to observe certain protocols. You have to train your staff. Tell us, how is that going and how ready are we?
Yeah, so we are still in a global pandemic. But still, COVID is still real in Jamaica, despite what a lot of persons might still be thinking. COVID is still real, so we have to make preparation for our shelters amidst COVID, and everything that we have done for our shelters were done against COVID imperatives. And we would have started this from 2020, when we would have had our first case in March of 2020. We start looking at how best now we would be managing our shelters going into the hurricane season. So we would have recrafted our national shelter protocol to ensure that it is reflecting COVID standards. So part of that standard is to ensure that there is temperature checks at the facilities, there is enough sanitizers at the facilities. Shelters are generally crowded, so you have to look at your social distancing protocol, or you set out your cots with your 6 feet intervals and 6 feet around the cots. Yes. But critical to that, and one of the most essential component, is to ensure that there are isolation areas in every single shelters. So we would have done all the shelter assessment way before the hurricane season, and we would have put in place 186 shelters nationally. And every single one of these shelters have an isolation area, where if someone comes in and they're already showing sign of COVID, you can't turn them away, because you have to provide safe refuge for everyone in a hurricane. You have to ensure now that those persons can be placed in an isolation area. If persons are already in the shelters and you have persons showing any signs of COVID-19, then they are placed in the isolation areas as well. Isolation area is equipped with its own bathroom facilities. Some of the isolation areas have bathroom already attached to the facility. Some we have to ensure that there is a bathroom close enough to the facility where that would be used, the isolation area, that is, where that would be used by the persons alone who are in isolation. Yes. So you don't have a mixing of the general shelter population with persons who are placed in isolation, because if they're actually positive with COVID, we want to ensure that we don't have kind of a double whammy where we are responding to a hurricane, and then you start having, after the hurricane response, an explosion of the cases of COVID in the country.
Persons have had to be trained as well, right, to manage these centers?
Yes, so the training would be looking now at the new protocol, and so all our shelter, we would have gone through a process of training and some resensitization with our shelter managers. A little bit difficult in this whole COVID-19 scenario, where we can't have much face-to-face interaction, yes. But a lot of the training were done, using the digital platforms that everyone is using these days to do those trainings. So we would have done those, and we would have done our resensitization. Right.
Tell us about the shelters. Where can we find them, and some numbers that we can?
Well, they're all around in every single parish. And we have very experienced shelter managers. Some would have been in the system from in the 80s, and we commend those persons for the level of volunteerism and that kind of sense of duty to nation. And so they're across the entire country. Persons can make contact with their parish offices. They can go on our ODPEM website at www.odpem.org.jm. Part of the new process as well is to, whenever time our shelters are activated, you can go on the ODPEM website and see the shelters that would have been activated. The move from green to red, that kind of thing. So we're using the technology
But there are going to be times
facilitate.
when you can't go on our website.
And so you can call the ODPEM office 906 967425 or 754-907728, and you can call your parish offices as well, and we list all those offices on the ODPEM website at present, and there's a list in there so persons can go on from now and you familiarize yourself.
Yes.
And you
You
write down the numbers and you get the contact as well for your parish offices.
When people are going to shelters, they tend to take everything their own. What should we not take to shelters? What do we need to take?
Well, you need to take for the outset some non-perishables. You take your so you can tie you over. We have to ensure as well that we are providing for persons who generally won't be able to come in with any supplies. So the state mechanism will ensure that those persons are provided for. You take along your medication. Persons who have some degree of comorbidities, your diabetes, your hypertension, you take along your medication. If you have any other condition and you're on medication, you take along those with you. Formulas for babies, if you're taking babies into the shelters, formulas, diapers, those things for babies, those have to be in. We don't admit animals in the current shelters. That's something that I think we have to look at going forward, because a lot of persons know in Jamaica we used to have dogs, but there are more dog owners.
Yes.
There are more dog owners in country now, and persons have other pets. So that's something as well that we have to start looking at, how you provide an additional shelter for pets and all these things. It happens in other jurisdictions. Something that we have to pay critical attention to in Jamaica.
Yes.
But you for now you don't take your pets in. We try to ensure that you're not bringing in any illicit items. So the shelter managers have to manage those. The constabularies are part of the process. They do their regular checks from time to time. So no knives, no illegal guns, that kind of thing. You don't bring those into the shelters. And you best as possible come in. And what we have been advocating for is that when you come into the shelters, you take care of the facilities, and you leave them in the same condition that you would have gone in and see it, and or leave it even better.
Yes.
So that's because our shelters are for our children. A lot of them are schools.
Yes.
And so we have to ensure that upon leaving them, they still are in good condition for our children to use for their education.
Yeah. What is the current approach to disaster management at the community level?
Well, it's at the core of what we do, because the community is really where the rubber hits the road. So we have a three-tier process in country. We have a national structure, a parish structure, and a community structure. So we have what is called community disaster teams.
Yes.
And so a lot of work is done there, in terms of the community groupings, and a lot of training goes on in there in terms of having person understanding their risks, understanding how they have to respond to their needs in terms of their vulnerability. So there are a lot of zonal groups that have been formed across the country. So you zone them in areas that are extremely vulnerable to disasters, and we do a lot of training in the communities, and you get a lot of community volunteers. A lot of our shelter managers were trained as a part of the process, and what we find is that we have more women volunteering at that process, being shelter managers. And
we need to call out some men, though.
And so we call on the men all the time, and we have a lot of men now start being more involved in the process in terms of the community search and rescue teams and the overall community group.
So the government now has a catastrophe fund.
Yes.
Talk to us about that. What's the role of it and how does it help after a disaster or during a disaster?
The catastrophic fund is part of what is called disaster risk financing, and to the broader level, looking at disaster risk transfer. So for us, we would have a national disaster fund, a national contingency fund, and we also have the Caribbean Catastrophic Risk Insurance Fund, which is the CRIF. So the catastrophic fund is to look at multiple pillars.
So catastrophic.
The catastrophic fund. So it's to look at multiple pillars of risk financing. So if something should happen major in country, you can draw down funding from various elements to ensure that we are responding to disasters.
Right,
so it is essential to have. So countries, you are liquid enough. One to do a lot of it is around reconstruction.
Okay.
So you would have the necessary fund in place to do your reconstruction after a major impact.
Excellent. One last question. So what should we be buying now to ensure that we have our hurricane bag
Kits,
ready?
yes.
Kit, yes. I mean, people going to buy meat and all that.
No,
Yes.
not necessarily, because you can't cook in the shelters, and
Right.
it's something that we advocate that
Yes.
there should be no cooking in the shelters.
So we need 10 things.
You need your non-perishables, so your corned beef, crackers, mackerel, sardine. You start looking at your first aid kits. That is essential for homes. So if you have to take out some of the stuff that are expired, you remove those and you start putting in new items.
Yes.
And you constantly circulate them. So if you buy something now, before it gets to the expiration, they try to use it and replenish your stock. So you constantly do your rotation.
Okay.
So now is a good time to start putting in those items.
Yes.
And restock.
We're definitely out of time, so we'll have to probably call you back to discuss some other issues, okay? We
Anytime,
hope that we have a
anytime.
safe season. as
We
safe as
do
can.
we do hope so.
Yes. This has been Get the Facts, and our guest was Mr. Richard Thompson, who is Acting Director General at the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM. For more information on disaster preparedness, please visit the agency's website at odpem.org.jm. You may call them at 906-9674 or email them at odpem@cwjamaica.com. Until next time, when Get the Facts brings you more useful information, I'm Enthros Campbell. Thanks for watching and do take good care.
We need to work together to end child abuse. Try talking more and beating less. Create a space where your children can feel free to come and talk to you about anything, even their mistakes, especially their mistakes. They need this. You need this. Let's watch this next feature to find out other ways we can work to end child abuse.
It's no secret. Child abuse remains a stain that many perceive as irremovable because of its prominence, silence from witnesses, and its broad global impact. But agencies like the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, are working twice as hard to remove that notion. The agency's latest effort, a child abuse community drive-through to sensitize citizens and awaken voices and actions to end even the smallest idea of abuse towards any child.
A message that says to the citizens all over Jamaica that it needs all hands on deck to care for our children.
The Child Protection and Family Services Agency has a mandate for children who are deemed to be in need of care and protection. These are children who have been abused, abandoned, neglected, or otherwise at risk. And we do interventions based on the several programs that we have.
Through its child abuse community drive-through, the CPFSA has engaged members of several communities in St. Anne. The message was delivered through public speaking, flyer distribution, and other engaging activities.
If you feel like a child is being hurt, you have to report. We don't want you to get the facts. We don't want you to investigate. We don't want you to come with evidence. We want you to tell us so that we can roll out and do what we have to do. And so that's why we're trying to say to the persons in St. Anthony, you have to report.
The engagement is garnering partnerships with power movers of our nation. The initiative has been welcomed and joined by members of the Center for the Investigation of Sexual Offences and Child Abuse, CISOCA, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, and the Ministry of Justice, among others.
Our service partners are on board. They have come out to support us, and that is the message we want to send. So we have persons from the police, the CISOCA department, persons from restorative justice, from the child guidance clinic, from the probations department, from the hospital. And so it is saying to the wider society, look at how we as service partners have to collaborate, because caring for a child has so many dimensions.
Every year we partner with the CPFSA on different initiatives, whether it is parenting program or directly having to do with children.
It's things like these that our department, Community Safety and Security, is very interested in partnering with.
Of course, solving the issue of child abuse goes far beyond what these agencies are doing. Accountability continues to rest on the shoulders of a much larger Jamaica.
And I want to also speak to the prescribed persons, the persons who by virtue of their employment have to treat the children. So all the guidance counselors, the teachers, the doctors, the dentists, the librarians, you are prescribed persons. Meaning by law you don't have a choice. It's not that you wonder, should I or should I not? The normal man may wonder, but we as prescribed persons, we must. And if we fail to do so, we are failing our children.
Children want something that they can look up to and aspire to be. And when they see that there's so many persons behind them willing to assist them with getting all that they need, then it is a good look for our children. And I just want to encourage you parents to know where your children are at all times. It doesn't matter if you're going to leave them with a friend or anybody, just know where they are. Keep checking on them. Build a communication, break that gap so that you're able to reach them whenever they are having a situation.
And even if you're not a parent, guidance counselor, a teacher or doctor, there's still a part for you to play in ending the plague of child abuse in our country. Volunteer at a child abuse prevention program. The CPFSA's initiative is a great start. Understand what child abuse is and know the signs. Unexplained injuries are not the only signs of abuse. Look out for signs of depression, fear of adults, or even inappropriate sexual behaviors. Teach children their rights. Help them to understand that they have the right to be safe. That way, they'll be more likely to report an offender and less likely to think that the abuse was their fault. And report suspected cases of abuse or neglect.
You do not have to leave your name. You do not have to leave your information unless you choose to. You will remain anonymous, but what it will do, it will give even one child a chance. Children who are hearing, you can also self-report. If it is that you begin to feel uncomfortable with any adult, there is a way that you can call and you can self-report.
So, the mission is clear. Working together to end child abuse in our island home.
Break the silence, report child abuse. That's the only way we can help our children. We have one aim and one aim only, to protect the Jamaican child.
This is where the magazine ends for today, but if you would like to see more content like this, then visit our YouTube page. We also have all the latest news and updates on our social media pages and on our website, which you can find at jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.